A man by the name of Stevens said, "The greatest lies are often told in silence." Okay, so think to yourself real quickly, what do you think is a lie? Is it just saying something that is untruthful? Or could it also include not telling the whole truth when asked a question? And which one do you think is really worse? I agree with Stevens. The worst lies often told are silent. Politicians, I guess you can understand, are often guilty of this. You have a politician giving a speech, and he's talking about his promises to the people who he wants to vote for him. And he's saying all these things, but the most important things are what he's not telling you. And what he's not telling you can make the difference between policies that are successful and not successful. Another kind of lie that is often made in silence is when we lie to ourselves. And when we lie to ourselves, we lie to the world. And by that I mean just trying to convince yourself that things are okay when they're not, or even just trying to convince yourself into a belief that on some level you know not to be true. There's a danger in all of these kinds of lies because they're not silent. When you tell a lie or you lie out loud, the people who you're communicating with have the ability to refute it or and understand that it was a lie. But when it's silent, most often there is no possibility of that occurring. And that is ultimately the chief reason why silent lies are the most dangerous ones. Thank you.
All right, Zach, I think that the use of the quote as the attention device is a little bit awkward, but you made a nice rhetorical kind of question out of it, which led to the thesis, so I thought that that worked in the long run, although I think you could probably find something a little bit more effective. There's no setup of what the supporting structure is going to be. I think you've got a good example when you talk about politicians. You've got the right idea there. The problem is there's no detail on that example, and so you kind of run out of things to talk about. I think you also have a good example with the notion of lying to yourself. And again, without any detail or illustration, you ought to be able to think of something that you've lied to yourself about and tell us about it, that sort of thing. And, give us an explanation about how it fits the point that you were trying to make. That, I think, would help. So the material doesn't develop as well as it could be, although you had a couple of interesting ideas there. Presentation issues, your voice projects well, you've got pretty good variety in your tone. The thing that you're going to watch for in your voice are the pacing and the pauses. You've got a lot of vocal fillers that you want to pay attention to. I didn't count them, but when you watch it back, if you maybe pay attention to the ums, you'll see that that's really what you do. When you get to a point that's the end of a sentence or you're hesitating for the next idea, you stick in that phrase, that sort of thing, and it's not a long presentation, but there were quite a few of them, so that'll be something that you want to control. Look, everybody does those things occasionally.
Right.
You just don't want to be doing them all the time. Let's see here. Gestures, I thought you had some nice, expansive, inclusive kinds of gestures that you were doing while you were speaking. Your facial expression is reasonably animated, although if you had more variety in what you were talking about, you probably would be a bit more engaging. As I've said to several people already, and I'll say to you, I'm glad that everybody's paying close attention to me, but I think the rest of the class would like to be included a little bit in the presentations as well. I thought that you helped yourself a little bit. You found an effective exit line, and even though everything didn't go quite as smoothly as it might have and was developed as thoroughly as it could be, when you've got a nice point that you're making at the end of the speech and you can kind of finish reminding us, here's what I was trying to say, that helps. It gives a good impression. Thank you.